welcome and let folks know I see some new faces. So I am Dina Billion, and I'm Deputy Director of the Career Development Office at Maryland Carey Law, and I'm very excited to be joined by Anjie Vishananda, who is doing our second Super Skills session. We had a wonderful session on Monday where on Tuesday, where I learned a lot, and I hope to learn even more today. So this again is supposed to be interactive. I'm going to turn it over to Anjie to introduce herself because as the CEO and founder of Leg Up Legal, so many wonderful resources for pre-law students as well as students in law school. So I'm going to turn it over to Anjie. She's going to introduce herself and talk about some of those amazing resources.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dina. So hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here today. And as Dina said, I am the CEO and founder of Leg Up Legal. We provide a mentoring program that connects prospective law students to lawyers for mentoring so they can learn more about the legal profession before they enter law school. But we also create a ton of content that's relevant for young lawyers and law students. And so I'd love for you guys to be able to connect with us and start following our content on LinkedIn. We also host a number of events for law students and young lawyers. So come and join us for all of those events. And I'm excited today to teach you guys more about LinkedIn and how to actually engage with people. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. And then at the end, we'll have an open Q&A where you guys can actually ask me questions about how would you approach this? Or if I'm trying to connect with this type of person, what should be my strategy here? I want this to be an interactive workshop. So really think about a lot of questions that you might have. And then at the end, we will address them all. So I'll go ahead and get our presentation started and then we'll dive right in. All right, so welcome to LinkedIn Superskills Part 2. This is all about joining the conversation on LinkedIn and actually engaging with people. So Tuesday's event was really about how to set up your profile and get everything ready to start networking. And then today's event is really going to be more about how to actually network with people. I know people throw around that word networking all the time, and it's hard for people to really understand what that means. So we're going to dive in today with some real practical strategies on how you can do that. So first, we're going to talk about 5 types of LinkedIn posts that you can use to start engaging with the LinkedIn community. If you haven't started creating content on LinkedIn yet, I know it can be really intimidating to start. So we're going to give you just different templates for types of posts that you can use to make it super easy for you to start engaging. Then we'll give you 5 types of comments that you can use to engage on other people's posts so that you can start getting to know other people on LinkedIn and people can start to get to know you. So one thing that you should know about LinkedIn is that the key driver for engagement on LinkedIn is comments. On almost all other platforms, they'll have their own algorithms on how they weigh activity and what they want you to be doing, sharing, liking, reacting, or commenting. But on LinkedIn, comments are king. So if you are not commenting on people's posts and people are not commenting on your posts, that's a good indication that you probably haven't reached the right engagement level. So we also want you to be able to find industry leaders to follow and engage with. It's really important to connect with these folks because they're going to show you examples of what you should be doing on LinkedIn. And you'll be able to start seeing all the people in their networks as well. Next, I want to show you how to identify relevant groups to join. As law students, there's all sorts of valuable groups for you on LinkedIn that you can use to connect with practitioners, alumni, each other. You can use to learn more about different practice areas and find people who have similar backgrounds and experiences to you. You can also use LinkedIn to connect with alumni and attorneys in the practice areas that you're interested in. So we'll give you some real tangible tips on what to actually say to them and how do you initiate a real conversation to go past the profile and really get to know them. What I've been doing during the pandemic is really combining my use of LinkedIn and Zoom. So I use LinkedIn to find people that I want to connect with. Then I reach out to them, DM them, and I ask them to connect with them for an informational interview or just a quick coffee chat on Zoom. And using that, I've been able to get to know so many more people in person. And I know it seems like it's really awkward to do those two things, to really, try to talk to real people through using LinkedIn, but that's exactly what it's there for. So we'll show you how to do that. And then, so we'll give you the DM templates for the informational interviews, and talk about how do you start attending virtual events and really making the most out of it. A lot of you are probably already attending virtual events from bar associations or your law school or your undergraduate university, but there's ways to really get the bang out of your buck for it by reaching out to the actual speakers and participants and really using that as a way to connect with other people. And finally, researching your prospective employers. Who here wants a job? Like everyone, right? So I think it's really important that you take the time to use LinkedIn to research your employers. And sometimes you'll be able to find out even more from your employers on their LinkedIn pages than you would be able to on their regular websites, because their LinkedIn pages typically are run by their marketing groups who are trying to show people the more human side of the firm. And they're trying to show people that it's more than just, a corporate website and a corporate talking head. They want to be able to show different elements of their firm and their culture. And so you might be able to really get a better sense of the firm's culture by looking at its social media profiles. Alrighty, so why engage on LinkedIn? What's the point? First, creating content is a way to nurture your network without actually having to reach out to everyone individually. So I know a lot of law students are busy and you guys don't have time to be reaching out to every single person that you kept in contact with regularly. So I hear this complaint from law students all the time that they tell me like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to start talking to attorneys because once I have talked to a few, how do I keep in touch with them? How do I keep reaching out? I don't have time to be messaging 15 people a week. I get it. You're busy. So if you create content on LinkedIn, though, that one piece of content will go out to your network and it will keep you top of mind automatically for those people without you having to barrage them with messages. So it's a great way to just nurture your current network and be able to keep yourself on the minds of others so that if they think about opportunities or if they see opportunities, they'll think of you. Next, your content will be seen by the connections of your connections. So make social media work for you. So the most wonderful thing I think about LinkedIn is that its algorithm is naturally made to try to connect small ecosystems of people. So once you start following all these industry leaders in the legal profession, you're going to start having access to their networks and they will become your second and third connections. And so the content that you start creating on LinkedIn will start growing exponentially because the connections of your connections will start to see it and people will start engaging with you. So you can use social media to really grow your network much faster than in the real world. Because in the real world, if you meet one person, they might be able to connect you to one other person. They might be able to connect you to one other person, but you have to kind of keep driving that. But on LinkedIn, if you interact with one person and you connect with them, now you have access to their connections. And as soon as you start creating content, those people will start engaging with you. So it really helps do the work for you. And if you start now, think of how large your network will be by the time you graduate law school. Doesn't matter if you're 1L, 2L, or 3L, you can gain a lot of success on LinkedIn very quickly. And I'll talk about my own numbers so that you'll be able to see, how has my LinkedIn journey progressed and what could that look like for you. You should use LinkedIn to connect meaningfully with your peers because you'll be surprised how fast those 3 years of law school go. And once you're out, it's going to be hard to keep track of everybody. I mean, a lot of the people who went to my law school are all in different states and even different countries now. And not all of us stay in touch, but the ones that I connected with on LinkedIn while I was in school, I can follow them around all the time. So it's really helpful if you want to be able to keep track of where all your classmates are moving to, everyone will be making career moves. And you'll find that once you start reaching 5, 6, 7 years out of law school, all of your network will start moving up in the world. All of you will start to find, positions where you're more in managing positions or decision-making positions. And then you'll start having the capability to pass around business to each other. So it's really important that you connect with your peers now, because you don't know how fast everyone will grow. I mean, I've had classmates that were in 2 classes behind me that became general counsels 4 years out of law school, which is crazy. But, once they become those management level positions and they have work to give, they're going to remember all the people who are nice to them. They're going to want to give those people work first. So I've had, students who I TA'd for eventually give me new business. And that's an amazing thing. I think it's really important to know that your most important connections aren't always going to be the people who are senior to you. Many times they're going to be people who are junior to you. All right, so we'll look at my actual numbers. And I'm sort of embarrassed to admit these because I really didn't start using LinkedIn the way that I do now until this year. So my connections from 2007, I went back and pulled my report, by the way, from 2007 until January 1st, 2020, I had all of 1,100 connections on LinkedIn. So that's literally all the people that I interacted with who would have reached out to me, because I definitely wasn't reaching out to people intentionally and connecting with them. But from January 2nd until today, in this year alone, my connections grew by 7,850 people. And that is just mind-blowing to me, and what really changed in this whole equation was not that I was reaching out to a lot of people to connect with me. It's literally that I started creating content that people cared about, and then they started connecting with me. So, and this is why I want to talk about my post views. So my post views from last year completely were 52 post views. My post views from this year are 629,291. And so that's from me posting regularly. I try to post at least, once every day. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and I end up posting maybe 5 or 6 times a week. But just when you start creating content regularly, you'll just start seeing so much more traction so quickly. So it's important that you don't just create your profile and expect people to come to you. You have to start creating content to drive people to you. So yeah, let's see here. All right, so how do you start creating posts? What types of posts can you even talk about as a law student? I was always afraid as a law student to post on LinkedIn because I thought to myself, I'm not an expert in anything. Why would anyone want to listen to me? And so that's okay. You don't have to be an expert. You can post about a day in the life. So this law student is talking about literally his first day of law school. Today I made it into law school and I'm super excited to be here. And, he's talking about just his enthusiasm for starting this journey. And that post got 123 reactions and 60 comments, because everyone remembers those things. Lawyers, we remember what that law school experience was like. We remember the nerves from our first day of law school. That resonates with us. We remember what it was like to study for your first final and study for the bar exam and all of those things. You can talk about those experiences contemporaneously as they're happening to you. And I promise you, there will be people who engage with you because that resonates with us. We can relate to that. You can also do shout outs to mentors or attorneys who have done informational interviews with you. You know how to make these interviews work for you? You call out the people who have actually taken the time to meet with you, and recognize them on LinkedIn. So this young law student reached out to me earlier this year, and we had a 2-hour-long informational interview because she had so many questions and I loved talking to her. And then she wrote a post about me and what we talked about. And I thought it was just really helpful to see the impact that I was making on another person. And so I remembered her. And then during the summer, she was telling me that she was really interested in entertainment law and she really wanted to work for a startup. And one of my friends, who is the managing attorney at a young startup, actually had a position come open, and I recommended her to my friend and got her a job. So, these things are just, I mean, I don't want you to think about it as a favor exchange, because I think that's how a lot of people feel about networking. But the whole point is, I took the time with her to go through my experiences, and I made her feel something. And then she took the time to share this about our experience, and that made me feel something. And those are the things that made us remember each other. So, you're trying to build relationships where you're actually making an impact on the people that you're interacting with. It's not just about exchanging favors, and it's not just about, dishing out job opportunities or whatever to the people that you like, but it's really about maintaining these long-term connections with people. Next, you can share lessons for your peers and people behind you. Again, those people behind you are going to be really important people one day. So if you start posting now about things that you're going through, you can learn something today and share it. And that's still just as beneficial for the people who don't know that thing yet as, if you were an expert in it for 15 years. I think that it's really important to know that one of the big things that weighs on our overall satisfaction in life is giving back. Just as human beings, we are born to be more fulfilled when we give back to other people. And when you're a young junior associate, you'll see this, the first time that you're ever able to teach a summer associate, or you're able to impart some sort of knowledge on somebody behind you, you're going to feel that sense of fulfillment. And it's really important for you to start sharing those lessons now. Think of all the things you know now versus the things that you didn't know before you got into law school. You can share all of those things with pre-law students who haven't gotten into law school yet. And if you're a pre-law student, think of all the things that you know about law now that you've started researching it and started talking to attorneys and thinking about what you want to be, versus, the college students that may want to go to law school sometime in the distant future, but they haven't even started looking into all these things. You can still share all of the current experiences that you have with the people behind you. Next, celebrate your wins, even the small wins. You made the moot court team. It doesn't have to be, I won a moot court competition. You can just make the team, and that's a really good win. I think that it's important to celebrate all your small wins along the way, because people want to be able to cheer for you. Some of my law students will reach out to me and just update me, hey, survived another semester of law school. That is a win. Even if you don't do anything fantastic during that semester of law school, just the fact that you made it one more semester, that's a win. So, talk about your little wins. And then reflections on substantive experiences. So I talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, but I encourage you to write reflections for all of your internships and summer associate positions. And even if you're going to CLEs, or if you're doing these virtual experience programs, you can find virtual experience programs online in different practice areas. So this person did a banking virtual experience program that was taught by banking lawyers. And she's not even a law student. She's a pre-law student who's trying to go to law school. And she still took this program. And she talked about how difficult it was because she has no experience in law, but that she really enjoyed it because she actually got to learn from real professionals. And so you can share these substantive experiences so that people see your growth. Everybody wants to see that you're still growing and you're progressing. And it's really important for the people that are going to hire you and the people who are going to mentor you and your other connections to see that you're making progress. So 5 types of LinkedIn posts that pretty much everyone can make. Now, 5 types of comments. First, you can introduce yourself. So I've seen these types of posts all the time. I actually do them frequently where I say, hey, everybody in my network, if you want to meet everyone else in my network, comment below and introduce yourself. And Alex Sue is another person who does this all the time, and his network is humongous. So you should definitely be following him and commenting on his posts. But the important thing is, what do you say in your introduction? As you can see, the first comment here is a lot more detailed than the second comment here. And the first comment here makes me a lot more likely to click on that law student and say, oh, that's interesting. I want to connect with her. The second one, not so much. So I think it's important for you to know that when you have these opportunities to introduce yourself, you really should give an elevator pitch about yourself. You know, what are the key important things about you? Where do you go to school? This is why I'm having you practice, you know, in this meeting where I tell you, hey, drop your LinkedIn links and introduce yourself. Don't just drop the link alone, because nobody's going to want to connect with you if they don't know who you are. So introduce yourself. You know, I'm a 1L, 2L, 3L part-time student, LLM student at whatever law school, and I, you know, come from this city or state. I want to practice in this city and state. I'm interested in this kind of practice area. You know, all of these details are really important for practitioners to know if they're the right person to connect with you. If you don't put those details in there, then they're probably going to just pass you by. So make sure that you know how to give a good introduction of yourself online. The next type of comment you can have is basically great post. I've seen a lot of people just say great post, but that won't encourage people to engage with you. So if you see the comment at the very bottom here, it says, you know, I sure hope these seeds of wisdom will fall on fertile ground. Great post. What we put out into the universe is ultimately what we get back, or at least that's what I believe. And I thought that was great because it at least shows what she believes in, and it was encouraging, and it just gives a little bit more elaboration as to like, oh, I kind of have the same values as that person. I want to connect with her. So you don't just put great post while it's good because people will see that you commented. You should definitely add some sort of value in your post or in your comment. Next, you can invite people to connect. So this is my Real Lawyers of LinkedIn series. And one of the lawyers that I featured, Radiance Harris, she is doing all these amazing things. She just wrote a book, and Laura, who's another lawyer in my network, didn't know her, hadn't connected with her. And so she said, hey, it's nice to meet you, Radiance, and I wanted to connect with you. And then Radiance replied to her. So it just shows that, hey, if you invite people to connect and kind of call them out on it, they're probably more likely to connect with you. And then show appreciation and give thanks to the right people. You know, give credit where credit is due. That's going to be really important as you move up into the world and you become managers and senior associates. It's important that you recognize people and appreciate them for their hard work. So this is a student that created a first-gen mentorship program at her law school, and also helped to further the efforts of the mentorship program. And so the other student who is the chair of that mentoring committee commented on her post and said, you know, so excited for your program. Thank you for all the hard work that you do. And I think that that's, you know, perfect example of showing appreciation and giving thanks and giving credit where it's due. Finally, share a story. I mean, comments, you'd be surprised how long those comments can get. They don't always have to be a sentence long. You know, I see a lot of lawyers who create posts that are storytelling. You know, they're talking about an experience in their life that happened. And if you have a similar experience to share, feel free to share them in the comments. Those are meaningful ways to engage with people, and people will see your stories and they'll be more likely to connect with you. All right, now, how do you find some people to actually follow and engage with? Using the search. So the search bar at the very top is a global search. First, enter your search criteria. So in this example, I put just trademark law. And then you click on people, and then you click on all filters. So the filters are what allow you to get more specific. So you can filter by location, current company, past company, school, industry. And when you expand your connections to larger groups of people, your search will get more powerful. So right now, your search results will only show your first, second, and third connections. So if you aren't connecting with a lot of people, you're not going to see a lot of people in your search results. But if you start connecting with people who have lots of connections, then all those people become your second connections. And then if those people have a lot of connections, those people are your third connections. So that's why you should find industry leaders who already have huge networks, because that's a way to exponentially grow your second and third networks really quickly. So even if your first network and first connection network is small, that's okay. As long as you're connecting with industry leaders who already have big networks themselves, it already makes your search more powerful. Okay. So, if you wanted to use these filters more effectively, sometimes I get really narrow in my search. So I want to connect with trademark lawyers who are here in Dallas, Fort Worth. So, I'll put the actual location. And then I'll say, you know what, I want to find people who might have even gone to my school because they're more likely to connect with me. So then I'll, add in the filter of my law school. And sometimes if you actually know, you want to connect with people at certain companies, then go ahead and, add that filter as well. But you can use these to get really, really narrow to make sure that your connection request is going to the right people. Now, once you find a person, what I highly suggest is you go and click on their profile and scroll down to see if there is any activity. So not everyone is very active on LinkedIn, and you want to try to connect with people who you know are going to be checking it regularly. So yeah, you can send connection requests to people who are hardly ever on LinkedIn, but it's probably not going to be the best use of your time. So try to go look at their profile and scroll down, and there's an activity section that'll show if they're commenting on other people's posts, reacting to other people's posts, or creating their own content. People who are creating their own content are the most engaged people on LinkedIn. So if you see that they're actually creating their own content, the likelihood that they're going to actually be using LinkedIn every day is way higher than if somebody is just reacting to things. Now, if you go to their activity section and you see that they've just reacted to a bunch of things, they never comment and they never create content, then they're probably not so much of a super user. So you can use that to gauge how likely is this person to interact with you and, really dive into LinkedIn. All right, so here's a couple of LinkedIn legal influencers of people who, are creating amazing content, and you might want to connect with them just so that you can expand your second and third networks. So Alex Su, who I mentioned earlier, he has 23,000 followers. Brian Potts has 13,000 followers. So Alex is a lawyer who now works for a legal tech startup, and he does business development. And so he has a ton of general counsels in his network. He has a ton of lawyers at law firms in his network, and he creates content that are targeted towards those people. But he also has a ton of law students in his network. So the types of content that you're going to see from him are going to drive who's connecting with him. And so you might want to think about what is the content that I'm looking for and whether that content is tailored to other people that I'm going to want to be connecting with. Brian is a partner at an AmLaw 100 firm, and he actually runs a mentoring program for law students. So if you're interested in, getting a mentor or being connected to attorneys who want to mentor, definitely follow Brian. Patricia Baxter, she creates videos on LinkedIn and TikTok about some general litigation, actually. And they're super entertaining. And you would never think that general litigation videos would take off on TikTok, but she has tons of followers. So follow Patricia. She creates great content. And I think that she's an excellent example of somebody who's using video very effectively on LinkedIn. Video is king right now on basically every platform because it it creates another dimension of getting to know that person, you know. And I think that it takes another level of bravery to create video. I created my first video this year and I was terrified, and I probably did, I don't know, 20 or 30 takes. Like, it took way longer than I thought it should. But it's still a great way to connect with people, because people want to see the human behind that 2D profile. So when you create posts, you're still a 2D profile. When you start creating video, then you become a 3D person. Andy Foote is a former lawyer turned LinkedIn coach. So he actually coaches lawyers on how to develop their personal brands on LinkedIn. And he's a huge LinkedIn nut. He writes prolifically about the LinkedIn algorithm whenever it changes. So if you want to find out about new changes in the algorithm, which it changes all the time, follow Andy, because he has great tips on how to basically hack the LinkedIn algorithm, which I'm highly interested in. I mean, I've definitely benefited a lot from his content and learned how to grow my network really quickly. So follow him. Darren K. Roberts is a former NFL superstar, and he is also a lawyer, and he has 39,000 followers, and he creates content under the hashtag "This is not about sports," and he finds ways to relate law to sports. And so if you're interested in sports law, entertainment law, follow him. Olivia Vizacro is a life coach and lawyer, and she focuses on coaching lawyers alone who are overstressed and over it. So she loves helping people learn how to overcome their stress and really manage to balance law practice with their lives. And Natalie Money Mama Gold is one of my friends, and she's one of the people who wrote this book with me, Networked. And she is a trust and estates lawyer, but she mostly handles large celebrities, and she's been featured on a number of different media outlets. And she also writes children's books and all sorts of stuff. So she's really fun to follow. And she's also very, raw. I think all of these people share content that is very vulnerable and it's very raw. And that's what people relate to on LinkedIn. So follow these people. All right, how do you find relevant groups to join? Again, enter the search criteria into the header bar and then click groups instead of people. And you should be searching for affinity bar groups. So, there's going to be groups for minorities, for Asian Americans, there's the National Asian American Pacific Bar Association, and probably local chapters for the same in every city. There's women's bar groups and just pretty much minority groups for every single minority that you can imagine. So practice area specific groups, there's for intellectual property, for example, there's the International Trademark Association, there's the American Intellectual Property Law Association. You can find those groups on LinkedIn and connect with all of their members. And the nice thing is right now, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to charge for groups. So sometimes you can start connecting with people's membership even though you haven't joined the actual bar association. So if their bar association charges a fee, most of them don't for students, but I've seen some bar associations into charges I think $25 for students. But if you just join their group on LinkedIn, that's free. You can also do alumni groups. So search for your own law school's alumni groups if they have them, or you can even search for undergrad alumni groups. My undergrad alumni group is huge compared to my law school's alumni group. And if you go to your undergraduate alma mater and then you filter for lawyers or other law students, you'll be able to find even so many more people who went to other law schools. So local bar associations, the Dallas Bar Association is very active on LinkedIn. There's always going to be local chapters. You might have state bar associations for each state, even small metroplex bar associations. All of them are likely to have LinkedIn groups, and some of them are really, really active. I know the New York City Bar Association is really active. They create tons of content and events. Our Dallas Bar Association is very active, so you can definitely find a lot more content there. Search for young lawyer groups. Let me give you a quick secret, guys. Like, when I started joining bar associations, it can be really intimidating because the bar associations are typically full of people who are very, very active and they're already very, very successful. And when I started joining, it was a little intimidating to start interacting with their members as a new person because you don't really know who's at the top, who's at the bottom, who's a good person who wants to mentor. But join the young lawyer groups. The young lawyer groups are usually meant for lawyers who are out of school 5 to 7 years or less. And those groups are always great because it's a lot of people who are willing to talk to junior people and help them along. So the Dallas Young Lawyers Associations are really, really helpful. And they're a great way to network with people who are kind of coming up alongside you. All right. So what do you actually say when you try to connect with these people? First, when you click on the invitation to connect, when you click connect, you're going to get this little pop-up window that says you can customize this invitation. And you always want to do that to the extent that you can. Click add a note, and then this other pop-up window will come up that actually has a section for a message. And unfortunately, you only have 300 characters, which is really limited, actually. So I just try to put something in there that actually fits that you could probably use for any purpose. So usually I would say something like, hi, I looked at your profile. I saw that you're, whatever makes them relate to you, whether they're an alum of your school or they're practicing in a particular area that you're interested in or whatever. That's the first sentence. And then you would say, I'm a current law student at whatever law school. I'd love to connect so that at minimum you can benefit from their content if they're creating content. Or maybe you would love to connect so that you can have an informational interview. So for DM templates for informational interviews, I usually say something like, looked at your profile, saw that you're practicing in whatever area. I'd like to connect with more people in that practice area so that I can learn more about the actual practice. This is like totally genuine, truthful, honest, and very relatable. And then just say, would you be willing to have a 30-minute Zoom call with me to talk to me about some of your experiences and tell me about your career path? If you keep it really broad like that, it's a lot more welcoming. If people tell me they want to ask me 15 questions about trademark law, I'm like, no thanks. Like that's going to take a lot of time. But if you keep it really broad, like this request, then they're a lot more likely to answer. All right. Attending events and reaching out to speakers and participants. So how many of you guys are actually attending virtual events right now? Like this one? Yeah? Okay. Well, I want you to be able to get the most out of it and be able to connect with people who are attending the event and speaking at the event. So this is an event that I signed up for a couple months ago, and it was Miss JD's 2020 Law Student Leadership Academy. And you go to LinkedIn and you can just search in the global search bar, you can search for events and you'll find a whole bunch of them. Once you hit attending, a new window will show up and you'll be able to see who are the attendees. So I didn't know this before, but somebody told me about this secret and I thought it was the coolest thing. So, if you actually click on their names where you say like Kat Wynn, Nefertiri, and 169 other attendees, if you click on that, it'll actually bring up a window where you can connect with like all the people. And so then you DM them directly and you have a message kind of like this. If you want to connect with their speakers, you can say, hey, I saw that you spoke at this event. I really liked your presentation. Make sure you write down something that was memorable about their presentation. So that you can put some detail into your request. And then say you're a law student and you'd like to, chat for an informational interview. If you want to connect with attendees, again, you should be connecting with peers and people behind you. So connect with the other law students that attended. I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world to reach out to law students at other schools. It really isn't. I've heard of a lot of law students that have attended my events who have reached out to each other. So don't be afraid to do that. just say, you know, I saw that you also attended this event and I'm looking to grow my network, so I'd love to connect. And do you want to have a Zoom call so I can learn more about you? That's pretty general and very inviting, and people are likely to say yes. Finally, researching prospective employers. So first, go to the search bar, enter whatever that employer's name is, and then see if they have a company page. If they have a company page, you'll see this little word company next to it, and then the industry. On Latham's company page, they have like tons of media on it. And not every law firm, I'll admit, is going to have everything, but it's a good place to start to see if they are active on LinkedIn. So you can check their about section to just see, you know, what's the broad overview of this firm? How many people do they have working there? How many of their employees are on LinkedIn? What is their corporate culture like? Then you can search for jobs. If they've posted any jobs on LinkedIn, you can search for all their job openings here. They might even have this life tab, which is pretty new, that has a bunch of videos about their actual culture. And that will give you a much better view of what is that firm really all about. It's a lot easier to watch a video and get a sense of their culture than it is to actually like go to their law firm website and just poke around. And then you can also search for people here. So if you're doing on-campus interviews and you happen to know whoever is interviewing you, go to their company page and then search to see if their employee, if the person who's interviewing you is one of the employees, and look up their profiles. Do a lot of research about that person. Try to figure out, you know, what practice area are they in? How long have they been at the firm? What experiences might they be able to share with you? And then finally, videos. Videos, again, are king on LinkedIn. They're super media rich. And what I usually do is I would go and search for the videos on the page, and then I would find ones that are featuring the attorneys in the practice area that I'm interested in. And then I'd go and click on them, and I'd watch the video, and then I'd reach out to the people directly. So in the caption here, it says, Capital Markets partners Benjamin Cohen and Rachel Sheridan joined IPO Edge's virtual bootcamp. And so I would say, okay, I'm going to go talk to Benjamin. I'm going to go talk to Rachel. So then I like go and look up Benjamin. I message him and I say, hey, saw this video on Latham's website about your presentation at this boot camp and thought, you know, these insights were super interesting. I'd love to connect for an informational interview to learn more about your firm. And just reach out to them that way. You know, the more detail that you can put in a request, the more likely people are to connect with you. All right. So if you have any additional questions, here's my contact information. There's a list of all the resources that I have, again, on my profile and on Leg Up Legal's pages. Definitely, you know, I'm happy to connect with anybody on this call. Please, please, please reach out to me.
Wow. Thank you, Angie. I really appreciated all that advice, and you know, everybody has something to offer, and something to offer someone that you want to connect with, really. So students just starting out, think about every activity, think about people you want to connect with, think about practice areas. I think it's great.
So I want to go ahead and do a Q&A now. You know, if anybody has any particular questions about how do I connect with this type of person, or, you know, hey, I'm reaching out to 50 people on LinkedIn and nobody's saying yes, why? Feel free to ask away.
Angie, what do you do if someone doesn't respond?
Yeah, I usually follow up with that person at least twice. You know, I wouldn't message them twice in the same week, but probably message them after the first week. And then if they don't get back to you after the first week, message them again in another week. And if they don't answer, that's totally okay. But you're going to send out a lot of messages that get ignored. I mean, just by sheer volume, you're just going to get a lot of messages that are ignored, and that's okay. I mean, doesn't kill you, doesn't hurt you. Really, I think that in a way, it's a little bit of a numbers game. So you're going to have to reach out to a lot of folks. But all you need is that one really valuable connection that's willing to stick their neck out for you or to give you opportunities. So, so don't be afraid to get ignored. I've been ignored a lot. So I saw a hand. How do I say your name? Marika?
Marika.
Marika. Hi, Marika.
I've definitely been just called America sometimes. We're like, okay, I'm America. Yeah, so I've definitely reached out to like 50 people and gotten ignored.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, I really liked your DM template. I liked how you kept it general. I think sometimes I can ask for maybe too much,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Um, but yeah, I don't like for a while I had like a very specific purpose because
Mm-hmm.
I was like I was trying to like start like a blockchain startup, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, like gonna rev my little booty up, and it just didn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and again, I think it could be that your ask is too specific. It also could be that the people that you're reaching out to aren't that active on LinkedIn. I mean, honestly, it's hard to tell. So if you use the searches to really try to find people who are really active and engaged, they're just way more likely to respond. I mean, I've had people that I reached out to connect with, and I reached out to them 7 months ago, and their first login in 7 months is 7 months later, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'll connect now. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know what to say to you now that it's been 7 months ago. But yeah, I mean, it could just be that they're not that active on LinkedIn, so try to find people who are more engaged. I wish that one of the filters on LinkedIn would allow you to see, like, when their last activity was. That would be really nice, but unfortunately they don't have it yet. So yeah, try to find people that are super engaged. Try to keep your ask pretty general, and pretty inviting. I think that the tough ones that I get are people who are like, "Do you have any advice for me?" And I'm like, "Wow, that's a little broad, and it's going to take me a really long time to respond to you." So if you're asking for a meeting, you can keep it broad. If you're asking for advice, I would keep it really narrow.
Hi, Angie. This is Merce. I have a question.
Yeah, hi, Merce.
Hi, everything is fabulous again today. I notice when I look on LinkedIn, sometimes people do posts and some of the names are like highlighted in blue text. Is that something that we have control over? Or is that something that LinkedIn does?
Okay, so if you're writing a post and you want to
Yes.
tag somebody, yeah, you use the @ sign, then you can tag other people in your post. That will encourage them to engage with you. But be careful about that, because if you tag people in the actual body of your post and they do not respond to you, it drives down your engagement in the algorithm. So the algorithm will say, oh, this person ignored you, I should ignore you too. And so make sure that if you're tagging people, that you tag in the comments. So if you want to tag people and say, oh, hey, this post might relate to you, and tag a whole bunch of people in the comments, it will not hurt you if those people who are tagged in the comments don't respond to your post. But if you actually tag them in the post and they don't respond, that's what hurts your engagement.
Oh, okay. So I think I've got this. That's good to know, Angie. What we should do is, even if someone tags us, we really should just out of courtesy respond back, because that would help them with their algorithm.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's relevant to you. I have a lot of people who tag me on totally random things, and you can actually hit the ellipses button and remove your tag. So I have a lot of people who try to sell things to other people who tag me in their posts, and I think that that's obnoxious. So I just go and untag myself.
Okay, I have to tell Ari Kaplan that, because he tags us every day. I didn't know that. Okay, that's good to know. What about when we actually send out something, and it has, when you send out a picture, or it asks for an alternative text, an alt text at the back of the photo. What does that actually do? Is that for SEO purposes? Do you have any idea? I fill it in anyway, but I don't know what I'm filling in.
Like, if you post it as a post, that's when I see the alt text come up. And that's if your image doesn't appear for whatever reason, on the medium that they're viewing it, the image doesn't appear, the alt text will appear instead. So, but if you're DMing somebody an image, I don't think I've ever seen alt text appear.
Okay, it's usually the posts. Good.
Yeah, so I think it's usually on posts, and it's usually for if that picture doesn't appear on the medium that they're viewing it.
But doesn't really have anything to do with SEO at all, on the site.
Not that I've seen. It doesn't seem to impact reach. No.
Okay, now I don't have to spend so much time doing it. Good to know.
Oh, do you spend a lot of time on your alt text?
Well, yeah, put it in, because I thought it had to do with SEO, to tell you the truth. I thought it was like a meta tag, and so
no,
I will not be doing it that much. Thank you.
No. If you're seeking a particular opportunity from LinkedIn, like connecting with IP lawyers, should you limit the content that you... No, I would not limit the types of content that you post. I would limit the way that you're searching for people to connect with them actively. But casting a wide net on LinkedIn as far as your network goes is a great idea because, again, the connections of your connections may be IP people. So even if you're connecting with people who are like Alex, for example, he's not a core IP person, although he has a ton of IP lawyers following him. I know because I've looked for them. So you can actually, for some people, you can go and check their connections, and then you can search for their connections in particular industries. But not everyone has that privacy setting turned on. So sometimes people will restrict it so that you can't search through their own connections. For the most part, the legal influencers that I put on that slide don't have that privacy filter on that doesn't allow you to see them. So you can go and look at their connections and try to message people in the industries that you want. But yeah, I would cast a wide net when it comes to connecting with people and creating content.
Yeah, so there's appears to be this new feature that LinkedIn is telling me about in terms of like recruiters. So it's got like how much I want to get paid and all these sorts of like new things that go under your like immediate description. And I was wondering how much like it's important to have those. I'm obviously in the position of looking for a job and trying to go to law school at the same time. So it's kind of like a weird like mix filter. Is that something you should have on for like the job half or just?
Yeah. As far as I know, that information isn't public to people who are not recruiters. So I think that it behooves you to really fill it out as much as possible. Now, I don't have a LinkedIn recruiter account, so I can't tell you for 100% for sure. But I think that as far as that salary information and that type of thing, it's not visible to just the average LinkedIn user.
Yeah, it's really awkward. I'm like, I don't want to be in the position of like having all that information, like, oh, I need healthcare benefits and X dollars an hour, but it's a little comforting to know everyone doesn't see it.
Well, I mean, you could always, if you're too afraid to disclose the information, you could just not have it on your profile. But then when you reach out or talk to the recruiters that are reaching out to you, then you can ask all of those questions and find out more of that information. It's whatever you're comfortable with, really. But I think that some things that you put on your profile just allow them to identify, like, okay, are you searching for an entry-level position? Are you searching for a senior-level position? It'll be more likely that they'll reach out to you if you're searching for the kind of positions that they fill. So I would at least include that information and, the types of industry that you're in. But if you don't want to put the really, really specific stuff like salary data, I understand.
If you are going to post something or talk about someone, you just tag them to let them know that you're mentioning something that they did and you're writing about it. Because Alex Sue did a fantastic video that has inspired me to do a video to show people how to do it. And I want to make sure that he sees it. So just a simple tagging him is enough?
Yeah, if you're praising something that somebody did that inspired you or something like that, where it's like specific to them, then sure, you can tag them. I think if you're tagging somebody like what Marcy did with me, after we did an informational interview, she wrote about it and she tagged me. I don't know if all attorneys would be comfortable with that. So I would err on the side of asking them like, hey, do you mind if I write a LinkedIn post about our conversation?
I reached out to him already. Yeah.
Yeah. But if it's something really general, like, hey, I attended this event hosted by Alex Sue last week and, this is what I learned there. I think that type of general tag is fine.
Sometimes it can be so daunting to keep up with Twitter, Facebook. So what do you find is the best way for us to keep on top of all the changes and so forth with LinkedIn?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. As far as posting goes, to be able to do as much social media posting as I do, I use a post scheduler called Hootsuite that actually allows you to post to all of the channels at the same time. Hootsuite also has options that allow you to post at different times depending on peak engagement. So you can turn on that option and it'll see like what's the time that's most engaged on Facebook, and it'll automatically blast your post at that time. And then what's the times that people are peak engagement on LinkedIn, and it'll blast your post at that time. So Hootsuite is a great tool. I think there's a free account that you can have up to 3 social media accounts on. I'm on like the $12 a month account or whatever, and that's like slightly more up. I think that you can have like 10 accounts up there. So there's also Buffer is another post scheduler. Oh, and post schedulers are great, by the way, because you can schedule things in advance. So if you want to just turn out, let's say, oh, I do this. So every Saturday, I'll plan out my entire post, all my posts for the weeks, and I'll schedule all of them for all the days that I want to post on, so that, you know, I'm not having to log in every single day to post. You could do this if you're a law student and you want to say post once a week. You could spend one Saturday at the beginning of every month and write all your posts and then schedule it for one a week, you know, on peak engagement times, so that you're really maximizing your engagement without having to spend just a ton of time logging in every day and checking. What I would note is I would put a reminder on your calendar of whatever time that you set to post, because the golden hour of engagement, how LinkedIn gauges how much it will show your post to other people, is in the first hour, it will see how many people have engaged with it, reacted to it, commented on it, whatever. And then it will use that to gauge how many people it will organically blast it to on their feed for the next hour. And then it'll keep going that way. And so luckily, with the last algorithm change, now posts are a little more, they have a little bit longer time frame that they'll stick around. So it used to be on the shorter algorithm, time frame was like just a couple days, but now your post, they'll look at your engagement for the entire first week, and then that next week you'll still get some engagement going forward. And this changes all the time, so whatever I say could possibly change tomorrow, but at least what I currently know about the algorithm today is that you do get to stick around a little bit longer. So you should try to engage with every single person who comments on your post. Right now, LinkedIn doesn't penalize you for commenting on your own posts. And in fact, those comments will count towards engagement comment count. So it'll help drive your post forward. So if everybody replies or comments on your post and you go and reply to them, thanks for commenting, or something substantive, that'll count towards your comment count. So do that in the first hour, in the first day, in the first week. You know, try to really make sure that you're getting back to the people who are commenting on your post, because that will keep pushing your organic reach.
That just sparks another question. They say that you're not supposed to put a link in your post, that it's best to put it in the comment section. So you post and take the link if you want, because what is it? I guess, you know, the platforms don't want you off of the platform or taking someone off of the platform. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. So especially for LinkedIn, because I've seen this for myself. If I put even links, well, what really irks me is right now, even if you put a link to a LinkedIn article that you wrote, it drives down your engagement in the main post, which is crazy because you'd think they don't want you reading those articles. But the way to do it is when you write your post, call out in the post, the link to the article or the link to whatever it is in the comments, so that people like go and check it. Then make sure you like your own comment so that it stays at the top.
No way to pin it, right? There's no way to pin it. So
there's no way to pin comments right now. No.
Is there a list? It seems like you have a real great handle on kind of the metrics that drive engagement.
It all comes from Andy Foote. Go follow him.
So Angie, Greta asked if there was a book, but you really just get this information from one of your
yeah, I mean, because honestly, like LinkedIn changes so much that books would be outdated the moment they're published, I'm sure.
Well, I know that we are at the hour. I think that it would be a great homework assignment, Angie, don't you think, if everybody wrote a reflection piece and then put it on their LinkedIn page about this session and the one on Tuesday, and then you tag Angie, and then wouldn't that be awesome? So I just really wanted to thank you for this 2-part series where we learned so much. Everybody who has follow-up questions, definitely reach out to Angie.